Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Enough to Keep Going in 30, E2KGn30, our weekly news show. This is episode 13, and I'm your host tonight, Swissguard, and I'm here with Agasicles Stamus, or aka Zeusadamus, which tells you that the A team is off tonight, so no Prime and no DB, unfortunately. But how you doing, Zeus? I caught him again on the I did that. That was purposeful.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I am. We're here. We're doing so. It's a 30-minute show. It's always rushed and pushed. Today has been particularly calamitous because it started off with my wife blowing a tire on her car, and it's par for the course that it's ending up in a similar fashion. So we'll just call this the blown tire episode.
Awesome. For those of you new to the show, E2KGn30 is we usually have about 6 to 10 news stories that for the week that we find as the most interesting. Not the most important news stories, the ones we find the most interesting. So it's kind of like MVP voting. You know, nobody has like a good criteria for what the most valuable player is, and so there's always a lot of debate. And but for you, the listener and the viewer, that means you probably get a little bit of a different perspective than the general headlines that are kind of blasted across the internet landscape. So, you about ready to take off, Zeus? Looks like you got the first story.
Just about in like 10 seconds. Sorry, like
fortunately,
yeah, go ahead.
Fortunately, it's we're starting to get to autumn, and football started, and we already had our first major release for the holiday season, I guess if you want to say. Destiny 2 came out earlier, and the news is starting to pick up. There's I think some exciting stuff in this week's episode. So even though it's a blown tire, there's like there may be a silver lining where, you know, your tire blows out, but it's next to like a really good restaurant or something. You go there, and suddenly, like, you know, a pseudo celebrity, like a D-list celebrity, walks in, and you can get some photos for your Facebook feed or whatever. And I don't know.
But, I know you're doing the best you can.
No, I'm trying to think what could be positive from a blown tire.
The most positive thing about it is I was certain that they were going to tell my wife that the tire tread wear was at the point where she needed a whole new set of tires. So the good thing about it was that they were able to repair it. The tire tread wear was actually not that bad, and we were only out like $91.
Well,
that's much better than 900.
That is true. That's something.
So I am
something you can grasp at.
So I'm ready to go. So first news story at the top of the rundown tonight is Japan's is over on MCV UK. A wonderful site. I actually really, excuse me, actually really love that site. Japan's physical game market is up 82.5% year over year in August. So I will directly quote the lead into the news article. So the Japanese physical video game market was valued at 29.8 billion yen in August, up 82.5% year on year, according to the latest figures from Famitsu. This is down from. I'm rephrasing this. This is down to a huge 206.8% spike in hardware sales, prompted mainly by the Nintendo Switch, as well as a 21.3% rise in software sales. As a result, this is the third consecutive month of year-on-year growth for Japan's gaming market. Top three titles for July were Square Enix's 3DS and PS4 editions of Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age, Teen Sweat's number 1 and 2. So the Switch version was 1 and the PS4 version was 2. And Splatoon ranked in at number 2. Splatoon 2 ranked in at number 3. So that's really interesting and neat. I wasn't certain that a game like Splatoon would ring resoundingly with the Japanese audience, but apparently it does. So that's really awesome.
What's even more interesting is that it's the first million-seller Switch game in Japan. So you'd think
Yeah.
like Zelda would have blown that through all the way, like from the get-go.
Right.
But
The Switch is an interesting console in that each of the top tier, highly discussed, highly advertised games, it's a heat gainer, right? Each one seems to exceed the mark that the previous one set. So Splatoon 2 specifically sold 269,000 copies in Japan in August, pushing it above 1 million, as Swiss mentioned, to 1.07 million. So, and the rest of the stuff is kind of pretty common Japanese fare, which I'm not going to get into so much because I don't align very much with the Japanese audience. But interestingly enough, Crash Bandicoot, in its debut month, came in at number 8 with 40,400 units, and Hitman, the complete first season, came in at number 9, just under 28,000 units, which is kind of sad because I guess the studio that did that has officially broken away from Square Enix and regained their independence, kind of similar to a la Bungie, how they did with Microsoft. Nintendo Switch sold 254,000 units last month. Their market share is 41.8%. Now, when they quote market share, I never know whether they're talking about sales or total units. I'm guessing this is maybe more sales.
yeah, based on what they say about the PS4,
right?
It looks like that.
Yes, which came in at 131,000 units at 21.6%. I think I mentioned all the titles that most of our audience would be interested in. Splatoon 2 at number 3. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in at 50,445 units, released it at number 7. Hardware figures, like we mentioned, about 255,000 for the Switch, 132,000 for the PS4. Nintendo's 2DS and 3DS. Thank you, Windows. Trying to do the update. 2DS and 3DS were next. PS4 Pro really low at 25,500 units. PS Vita still sells 19,000 units, which embarrassingly exceeds the unit sales of the Xbox One S, which only sold 353 units.
Well, what's even worse is the Wii U outsold the Xbox.
right. In Japan, again, if you didn't catch the lead into the story, this is in Japan. And the PS3 continues to sell in Japan and sold at 307 units.
I mean, people have to replace broken PS3s, right?
Right. So quick bit of financial assessment on this one. What I find interesting is, I think I'm forgetting what I found interesting because I should have said it just at the top of the article. So, it's all of this, maybe most of this is down to the arrival of the Switch and how it just really pushed the market forward. 207%. So it doubled year over year, more than doubled, primarily due to sales of the Nintendo Switch, which apparently is just right in the wheelhouse of the Japanese audience. The other thing, this is the thing that I was going to mention, is interesting. So these are all physical sales. So these do not include digital distribution numbers as far as I understand. Physical sales up 21.3%. And I believe that is also largely due to the Switch, because the Switch is the one unicorn amongst the consoles of this generation where in most cases, particularly for big, complex, and the AAA headliner games, it is probably better to buy those as physical cards so that you don't suck up the limited memory on the Switch. Again, you can get 128 gigabyte cards on eBay for an inexpensive amount. I've mentioned that several times. It's not the problem that the media would lead you to believe. However, even at 128 gigs, I still didn't like Zelda sucking it up as much space as it did. And so I had to buy that digitally. I tried to buy that digitally. I had to buy it digitally with a card from Amazon over the launch weekend because I couldn't do the download directly from the Nintendo store or whatever. I can't remember exactly how it went down. So I downloaded it, put it on my system, and then went back, saw how much space it took up, went back to Amazon, asked for a refund, and asked them to send me a physical copy, which technically are just outside the perimeter of their boundaries for returns, but they graciously agreed because it was the launch weekend of the Switch and they understood that there were problems. So, any comments on that news story, Swiss?
No, it's interesting. Dragon Quest 11, the top two are like two different consoles of the same game, like two pretty different 3DS and PS4. I'm not sure. Have they announced whether Dragon Quest 11 is coming to the United States? I don't know if they've announced that yet.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I wouldn't. But
That's true. I'm asking the wrong person.
Yes, you are.
All right. Well, so we had Land of the Rising Sun. Now we're going to go across the pond east, across the Atlantic to the UK. Zeus is into this international financials today. That's the theme.
So we all know that I'm very big on tracking the UK numbers because I feel that so first of all, their numbers come out first before the North America NPD numbers come out. They are strong indicators of what you're going to see in the US. So I definitely like to talk about them up front because that usually beats even some of the big journalists to the punch in talking about sales. So this is over on gamesindustry.biz. Destiny 2 is UK's biggest launch of 2017, but falls well short of the original. So this is particularly interesting. However, now in this number, no digital data in this may be skewing the results slightly, is what Christopher Dring over at Games Industry Biz writes as his subtitle. Destiny 2 is the biggest launch of the year, and this is his quote. Destiny 2 is the biggest launch of the year so far, but its first week sales are almost 58% down compared with the original. It is the last major sequel on this console generation that has struggled to live up, is the latest major sequel on this console generation that has struggled to live up to its predecessor, following in the footsteps of Watch Dogs 2 and Titanfall 2. Now, I didn't think Watch Dogs, the original, was really that big a deal, so I kind of feel like that's out on the perimeter of supporting rationale for this. I'm really surprised Titanfall 2 sales were down, particularly that because I felt like it had a stronger showing on PC this time. I'm not even sure if the first one was on PC. Probably was, but this is very interesting because I was certain that Destiny 2 was going to be bigger than Destiny, and it may be a matter of when it's released. And again, as we've talked frequently on the Enough to Keep Going main show in discussions, how Destiny for many people was just a slow burn. People jumped in on it, but then with all the negative press that it got and negative commentary it got from the gaming community about how it felt incomplete, and the story was very simplistic, or just didn't really make sense at all. I think a lot of people stayed out on Destiny, and then it built up more momentum as the DLC dropped, and the DLCs were basically kind of mini updates to the entire game. And by the time it was all over, you really had a great game between the original Destiny and its three major expansions. So I'm wondering if people are just playing the slow game on this and letting it run and are going to get into it gradually and aren't so concerned about jumping in as day one buyers. There were also some server problems and some gameplay problems that have toggled their way around the news industry. The other thing I think that's a big thing is word is definitely out that the PC version is the best version. So
that's what I was gonna mention. We're still a month away from the PC release, so
yeah. So it could be people are slow rolling to get into Destiny 2 on PC. I believe we talked to a news story earlier in the year that indicated that gaming PC, that overall PC sales are down. However, gaming PC sales are up. And high-end PC sales are up because people are wanting to get into VR. So with more of those out in the population, it's possible that that's what people are waiting for, is my only guess. 58% of the game sales were on PS4. Uncharted, The Lost Legacy, tumbled to number 2 on the UK charts, dropping 49%. In sales overall. Unfortunately, this article doesn't give us the full rundown of the UK sales, but I would definitely say digital sales not being in these numbers definitely skew the conclusions. It's just, I mean, there were lots of rewards and lots of incentive, particularly for the population migrating from Destiny to Destiny 2 to pre-order. And when you can pre-order digitally, and that allows you to preload and start playing the game earlier or at least as soon as possible, you can play it at midnight without going to a midnight launch. I'm pretty certain with this one. I don't know that we've seen any hard data that shows that, for any singular game that it sold more digitally than physically. But I'm pretty certain this game might be the tip over point or very close to it. So it'll be interesting to see these numbers reaggregated once the digital sales numbers get included. So Swiss, any comments on that one?
Well, I also wonder, because I had heard the buzz is more positive. It sounds like that the general consensus is that this launch was better than the original Destiny launch. But I wonder how many people, when Destiny came out, it was new. It was Bungie's new, IP. It was the big deal. And if you have a bunch of Destiny players, there's a part of me that's just, if I'm already playing Destiny, how much do I feel like I need to jump forward with the next iteration? I felt that kind of way with Splatoon right now. Like, I mean, I'm not a Destiny player, so this is my analogy. I didn't get Splatoon 2 yet because I've been having fun with the original Splatoon, and I thought, well, I can buy Splatoon 2 or I can buy Mario Rabbids, and I chose Mario Rabbids because I already got Splatoon. So now, does that encompass 58%? I don't know. So.
Right. My guess is that there are strong. I mean, I agree with you. It's probably not all, right? So if you assume, that there's 100% of the volume of the Destiny playing community, there's some percentage, some wedge of those players who just were like, I'm just going to continue to play Destiny until the end of the year. Wait a couple months, let Bungie sort some things out, and then get into Destiny 2. I think probably the larger percentage made the jump, is my guess, but they probably went digitally is one of my assumptions.
So now we have a little bit of a lighter story. This is one of those where it's not a big deal, but it was interesting to me. So the headline from Game Informer: you can now play Super Mario 64 online for some reason. So click. The clickbait worked. I checked out the article, and what it boils down to is a group actually took Super Mario 64, a ROM, emulator ROM, and enhanced it with online play. So not only that, so you can download the ROM from smo64.com or sm64o.com, Super Mario 64 online.com, and play with your friends. But not only can you just play with your friends, they can have up to 24 players online at once. So I don't know why they it's probably as far as they could push it, just for a technical thing. But you can pick different characters. So they have, Yoshi and Mario and Waluigi and Wario and everybody in there, and they have their different abilities. As the article notes, there's no real goal for, they didn't rewrite the game or anything. It's just everybody's in there at once. So it's kind of just a neat little thing. But the trailer was pretty cool, and I just thought it was nifty. The mod community does some cool things. How do you feel about teams taking properties like that and customizing them? Do you think that's a good thing? I mean, I can't imagine this is going to last very long before Nintendo drops the hammer. But
yeah, and I kind of feel like Nintendo is a little like Disney with how quickly they react to things like this. I don't know. Nintendo's also pretty busy now, although I don't really know that lawyers are ever busy. So I don't know. I mean, it's fine. I mean, as far as my personal opinion on it, it's not something that I personally need. I'm just a mainstream guy, right? Like, I look, when the rage was Napster and BitTorrent and all these different ways to acquire music, as soon as iTunes came along and I was like, here's a store, I can go to it, I can pay a defined amount of money, I just went mainstream. So I'm not super interested in expending a lot of effort to go out of my way. My other metaphor analog is my wife and I were talking the other night, and maybe we're just bad parents. But our kid had her first like school fundraiser, right? And I'm like, I hated selling that crap when I was in school. And I'm like, my wife's like, should we take these things? And I'm like, let me write a check, right? So in the same way, like if you want me to play something, just put it up for sale and just charge me money for it, and put it in a regular store that I normally go to. So it's great that people want to do these things. Again, you and I both work in software, so this is great if you're trying to get into the industry. It's hard. I feel like you're just not going to get a job by just dropping a resume on their careers website. I don't even know why they bother having them up. So if this is a way to get noticed for people, and it's something that there's at least a small community that has interest in it, more power to them.
Yeah, that's my biggest. Actually, was you kind of robbed me of my biggest takeaway, which was the hat tip. Software engineer. It's not as easy as you might surmise. Programming is a cruel mistress. So just a neat little. Good job, guys. Kudos. So next story. You have a story about Star Wars Battlefront.
Yes,
Battlefront 1.
And I'll just put a little color commentary behind it. So I feel really bad. Swiss has to take test tomorrow and wanted to get started early, and I tried to, but I didn't. And this news story is one of the reasons why. Because in combination with heavily troubleshooting, a miscreant of a piece of new game capture hardware that I was trying to test for my YouTube channel. I was using Star Wars Battlefront to test it, a game which I bought 2 years ago and just never had strong interest in playing because I'm not as big into multiplayer now. Now since the wane of online multiplayer, particularly in terms of Xbox Live, which is where I played thousands of hours of multiplayer when the 360 was out. I just haven't been that much into multiplayer. Star Wars Battlefront is an entirely multiplayer game, basically, really, sort of, kind of. And so I didn't give it a lot of attention for the 2 years. However, this week, all of the Star Wars Battlefront, the Star Wars Battlefront Season Pass went free on EA Origin, which gives you all the content. So I think there are 4 expansion packs. So there was Outer Rim. I guess I could just read the article. As if they list them. And it looks like they don't. So Outer Rim, there was a Rogue Squadron DLC. And I can't remember what the other 2 were. But basically, if you already own the game, all the DLC was free. And I guess you get it free if you go and buy it now, if you, for some reason, amazingly don't have it. It's a great primer for Battlefront 2. We talked recently on the Enough to Keep Going main discussion show about, what our holiday strategy was. And we talked a lot about whether or not we were positioning ourselves to be day one buyers, or if we were just going to kind of dig into our backlog and things that we've purchased earlier in 2017, but not gotten our optimal ROI out of it. And I go back and forth, and it's frequently as I go into a holiday season that I say I'm just going to play my backlog, and then on any given day or night that I'm sitting around and I have time to game, and I see a deal, or if something makes me go to Steam, and then I get onto Steam and I'm like, oh, I may as well just go ahead and buy Battlefront or Rainbow Six Siege, and the time in between Christmas and New Year's is very bad, particularly if there's family here and I've chained myself into the Geek Command Center. High likelihood that I will buy. So the whole point of this is that I say that I don't really feel the need to buy Battlefront 2, but I might, particularly if I'm priming the pump by playing a lot of Star Wars Battlefront, because the season pass is free. So if you're tracking Battlefront 2, if you're not sure if you want to get into Battlefront 2, I'm not sure exactly how much Battlefront itself goes for, but you buy it. But point is, if you buy the game now, you get the season pass from last year for free, which it entitles you to all the DLC. So here's the really big deal too. If you're like me and you're not crazy about the multiplayer, although I'm going to play it since it's there, there are, as far as I can tell, there are many more single player missions and skirmishes that are available now. which means that that's also more two-player co-op because you can play those missions with a partner. And I think you could just do like a matchmaking session online, so you don't even actually have to have somebody on any particular friends list. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 launches in a couple months, but you can definitely play a ton of Battlefront, as I am sure that those servers are full of nostalgia players trying to recapture the glimmer of the launch 2 years ago. So just to give credit, this story is up over on Game Watcher. The Star Wars Battlefront Season Pass is now free. That's all DLC for 100% off. If your Star Wars Battlefront 2 hype has reached fever pitch, you can settle the cravings with all-you-can-eat Star Wars Battlefront. In anticipation of the first game becoming a desolate wasteland once Star Wars Battlefront 2 launches in the next few months, EA have heavily discounted the original game's Season Pass, and by discount we mean it's entirely free. It's a little janky, and it's going to throw you off if you haven't already bought one DLC pack. So just to prepare you, so you know what you're going into. So you're logged in. You go into EA Origin. I went into the store and wound up searching for the game because it didn't immediately present what I was looking for. But you go to the storefront where Battlefront is, or I guess in your game library you can hit the extra content tab or button or whatever, and you will scroll down and you will find Season Pass free. You click on that and buy it. The thing that threw me off is I assumed I needed to then individually go download the 4 DLC packs, but I don't know how it did it. But I mean, because I got the Season Pass, looked at my games library, didn't see the DLC, so went to see if I was supposed to download it. Don't download it because the only button that'll show is a button that says purchase as a gift. Just launch the game, and when you go into the game, somehow that content is all already there. So I don't know if it had already loaded in the background. I don't like the idea that even though I hadn't bought the DLC, that for months or years on my hard drive that it installed all the DLC anyway, just waiting for me to buy it. But however it happened, I bought the Season Pass, and 2 minutes later, that DLC was there. So I'm pretty sure that's gigabytes of data, and I don't think it downloaded in 2 minutes. But however it happened, don't go searching for the individual DLC packs in the store. Just launch your game.
So that segment had 2 classic Zeusisms. The second, most recent, was you being cantankerous about stuff on your hard drive that you didn't place there.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
But I mean, at least it was free.
Right.
But the first, you're like Sisyphus with your eternal struggle against your game capture hardware. So that's what immediately popped to mind.
Yes, I do it so other people don't have to.
So our next story is another game that it's an older game because I think it originally came out for the GameCube, if I remember correctly. But Okami is coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So the HD version, I think they re-released it. It originally was for the GameCube, then I think they re-released it for like the PS3 and maybe Xbox 360. I'm not sure. But it's being re-released again. And so Capcom's putting it out, Okami HD, to the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. But the port also includes 4K support, provided you have a PS4 Pro or Xbox One X or a beefy game rig, for all you PC Master Race folks. This seems to be a darling of the game media, and I've wanted it for a long time, and I have never picked it up. And it just is one of those games where I see it out there, and I'm like, I probably should pick that up someday. Like next time I'm at GameStop and I got like, $5 store credit or something. But now I have something to look forward to for the PS4. So probably put it on my wish list, and we'll see how it goes. But I have a feeling I know the answer to this question. But have you ever played Okami, Zeus?
I thought you were so convinced of the answer that you weren't going to ask. The answer is no.
All right. But It's coming out. December 12th is the release date. And another nice tidbit: it's not going to be like a full price game. It's only going to be $20. So nice little, I think, holiday pickup stocking stuffer. But my biggest story for tonight was that the Nintendo Direct recap. So the other day, Nintendo had another Direct for, I think it was yesterday, I think, 45 minutes, and they showed off a lot of cool stuff. And based on our internal E2KG chat, really got Prime excited. He's pretty much, I mean, he's a Nintendo acolyte now. I don't know.
Yes, he said he's all in. It's all in on Nintendo Switch, and it's Switch only this fall for him.
He's 100%. But so there was some cool stuff. So we had things that were expected. For example, we saw some more footage from Super Mario Odyssey. Learned a little bit more about the worlds. You have to collect the moons to move from world to world, and that's going to be kind of the main thing. There's going to be some features where you can use your amiibos to help you find some of the moons, or there'll be NPCs that will kind of guide you. So a little bit more info, but they like the Kirby game, for example, that they teased at E3, they actually announced the name. It's going to be Kirby Star Allies, and we have a kind of a release date for that, spring 2018. We got, I mean, there's a lot of some announcements that were pretty cool. There's this one game that kind of got me excited, and Zeus probably ignored or fast forwarded through the direct with it, but it was Square Enix is coming out with this cool game. Where's the name of the game? Something about like Octopath Traveler. It's a working title, so they haven't even come out with it. But you choose one of 8 characters, and the characters have the gameplay changes quite a bit based off the character you have. So if you have a warrior, you can just like challenge people to duels to get what you want or something. But if they have a dancer and she has allure, and you can kind of charm people into what you want to do. And so I suppose they're really going for you having a different experience. That was kind of interesting. It had a very classic Final Fantasy VI Chrono Trigger look. So that was neat. Breath of the Wild amiibos coming out for the champions to go along with, I think, the DLC. We got a bunch of Switch Nintendo arcade ports for classic gamers. New Kirby game for the 3DS. But the big things for me were the release date for Skyrim, which is going to be November the 18th, I believe. I don't have it right in front of me.
I get one prediction right for the year.
What's that?
I have said that I believe that game was going to come out this year. A lot
November
of the media. Wow, so Veterans Day. So nice drop. People have Veterans Day off. Drop a game so that they have something to play in the warm up in the final 2-week approach. Let it be that coast game. When I claim that people don't work as hard as they do throughout the rest of the year between November 11th and where they kind of go into cruise control until the Thanksgiving holiday. Perfect. Well played, Nintendo.
Bethesda 2. It's I mean, everybody kind of gives them grief for releasing Skyrim on yet another console, but this is, the Switch is a little different. This is gonna attract some new players, and
exactly,
and some people will revisit it. The other big thing that surprised me was Doom will be coming to the Switch, which is a big deal.
And this is the modern refresh Doom, that just dropped a couple
Doom 2016. Yeah, release date for that game. Sorry, we have like 50 different articles that are linking all the information they released.
Yeah. Well, they dropped a lot. This was a big Nintendo Direct. there were like 15 major announcements during this Nintendo Direct.
So I don't see the release date in front of me, but so they announced Doom, and then right off the heels of Doom, they announced Wolfenstein the New Colossus. So right. Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus, coming to Nintendo Switch.
That's
so
amazing.
Both of those are telling me that, you know, the Switch has already succeeded. We got third-party people bringing in their AAA stuff, and it's going to start going toe-to-toe with the PS4 and the Xbox One, and it has the portability trump card. So
yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily call it toe-to-toe, just to link back to your statement that it's something different. It's a different platform. But I think it runs alongside them in its own specific kind of operational use case, right? So I don't think it would be unusual now for somebody to buy New Colossus, and play it on a desktop console, and also buy a copy to take with the Switch. But definitely, it's going to create a little cannibalism as well, right? Because there will be people who will make that choice, who will say, you know, maybe I pay the full price and play it on the Switch right now and play it on the go, and then in 6 months when it's discounted, then I'll also grab it on another console and play it in 4K or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be the only scenario for me that I would see, because I can't justify buying the same game twice, like within that close. I mean, I bought Portal 2 for the PS3 and on Steam sale, but you know, you pay a couple of bucks, and that to me, that's not that big a deal. But you know, you're going to be seeing consumers with it on the shelf, and they're going to be saying, what do I value? Do I value the 4K, or do I value the portability?
Right.
And, if you don't have a lot of people with PS4 Pros and you got a PS4 versus just the Switch, I mean, I guess the controls are probably going to be a concern as well. But
as long as you've got a Switch Pro controller, and I played like almost 6 hours of Fast RMX earlier this week, and used the Joy-Con grip controller, and was reminded how really competent a controller that is. When you have a Pro controller, you kind of twist yourself into this belief that, you know, there's some games you only want to play with the Pro controller, but that Joy-Con grip controller is a very smart controller and plays very well.
But so to me, in addition, you know, we expected the Mario Odyssey, but those are the big things for me, because there's always been that criticism from a lot of people that Nintendo is kind of the little brother console, and they don't get those types of releases, and they're coming now. It's getting the content.
Yeah, and Wolfenstein 2 has a firm release date of October. Wait, nope. I'm sorry. I thought they did. They don't. They don't have a firm release date. The other console versions and PC version come out on October 27th, right about the time of the PC version of Destiny, but no firm release date for the Switch version.
It's not until 2018.
Right.
So it's not going to be head-to-head yet.
Yeah. So I reverse my scenario. You buy it on a 4K desktop console now, and then you take it with you on the go next year.
We get some. They kind of showed off NBA 2K18, FIFA 18, WWE 2K18, some other little things. But yeah, there was a ton of announcements. There's a really weird shooter that they announced that I don't know so much about, where it's like you shoot a body part and it grows on the person. So like the characters all get warped in the game as you play. It's really bizarre. But yeah, so check that out. And they got Prime's Prime is hyped up. He's drinking the Kool-Aid. So
he should just write Nintendo a check now.
Yeah, I got pretty excited too. There's a few games that I'm already putting on my Amazon wish list. So
yeah, so no firm release date that I can see on Doom. However, the big story I think is that it does include multiplayer.
Oh, okay.
You know, the ability to have if it can do split screen and play with somebody right there by your side. cool. If it if it doesn't still, if you have buddies with Switches, who can do the modern day equivalent of sitting next to the couch and play with you on their own Switch, that'll be awesome too.
Well, you have any other comments on what you saw? Is there anything did you watch the show, the direct show, or no?
I did not. I'm looking at the rundown now, and man, I kind of wish I had watched it. We already invested a lot of time in tracking E3 this year, so I'm kind of that may be all the time I can give this year to trade shows and marketing. Yeah, but yeah, I'll also mention, even though these things aren't specifically in my bailiwick, you definitely called out NBA 2K18, and we already knew FIFA 18. The drop date for that is September 29th, so the end of this month. WWE 2K18 with no release date. But I also thought it was very interesting that they're lining up Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and what was the other? And Fire Emblem Warriors. So I think those are two games in the wheelhouse of Nintendo that will also be big players for their release slate.
Definitely, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is going to fill in. I don't think we have a big JRPG on the Switch yet. So that's going to be the first one. They spent a significant amount of time during the Nintendo Direct on Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So even they did a whole thing with the gameplay description. So it wasn't just a trailer. They got into it.
All right. So the only plug I'll make tonight is I would mention, I kind of mention it casually most times, but specifically tonight I would say definitely check out the content over on my Rounding Off Infinity gaming channel on YouTube. If you want to hear some commentary of my experiences testing out the Hauppauge HD PVR 60. I don't do a specific series on my game capture card reviews, but I definitely use and test out a lot of different ones. I probably have tested every one that you might find in a general search on Amazon. So if you are trying to figure out which one you should buy, if you're in that market, definitely hear some of my commentary on that. That is part of my Star Wars Battlefront live stream series that I just started up tonight on Twitch, and I'll probably do a few more of those as well.
All right. Well, until next time, when Tuesday evening is the core show, when we talk about whatever tickles our fancy, or whatever muse strikes Zeus when he's commuting to work. It's usually how it works out for the most part. That's about at 9:15, and then you also have the Defenders podcast, correct? Oh, you're muted, Zeus. This is the blown out tire episode, people.
Yeah, sorry. This specifically, this is my Logitech G330 headset. It has both a hardware mute switch in the dongle or whatever in the midline, and so when we're using this headset, this is when this happens. But we just recorded episode 2 of that this past Sunday, so that is available on the E2KG network channel on YouTube. I have not scrubbed it and edited it at all, but the archive of the live show is there. Definitely sharper and more polished than episode 1, where I was a little punchy and out of it. We were much more specific and much more detailed and had some much more sophisticated commentary in what we believed was being done in terms of the production quality and the storytelling going on in that show, particularly in comparison to the other Netflix shows. So,
and that's always going to be on Sundays. Or do you have
we're kind of floating, because that's a weird series where it's only going to be 4 episodes. It's not wired around network television like Dark Matter was. So because Dark Matter aired on Friday, we had to pick a day to do the podcast before the next one aired. But with this one, we have much more flexibility to free will, since the show is just there on Netflix, and so it's kind of being shot as companion content. So whenever if you want to start going through those episodes, you can watch along with us and kind of join our conversation as we do 2 2 show episodes per episode of our podcast. Or if you wind up watching it later, you can always, again, watch it, watch a couple episodes and then listen to our podcast to hear the breakdown and commentary.
Excellent. Well, went past 30 minutes, but, it also usually takes a lot longer to change a tire than you anticipate. So consistent with the theme, I think we're going to, lick our wounds, drive off into the sunset with that little mini tire thing stuck on the side. Have a good night, everyone.